Do it. I swear to God, do it.
No, you need a pause. There always has to be a pause.
I know, but I don't know why you have to keep pausing every time we start. You know my. Okay,
Because otherwise you get caught, like your mouth looks weird when the video starts. That's why.
No.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Marijuana Mind. Yours truly, Jay Davis.
Jay Nasty.
And my co-host, my lovely co-host, Cynthia Brewer.
Always classy broad here, let me tell you.
Yes, one classy.
We're not going to edit, Kema, any of this out, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, it's staying, all of it.
That's how we roll. That's how we roll, Kema.
True story.
Mhm.
So let's finally get to, I get so frustrated with Justin Davis. I almost forget that we're on a podcast that hosts guests. So today we have a wonderful, just a bad bitch. I'm going to say it because I love strong, powerful women, and I love supporting other women in cannabis. And I feel like that's something we should always have done, but we kind of did it for a little bit and then just crossed it off the list. And then women kind of fell out of the, kind of leadership roles. Kema Ogden is out of Nevada. She's the executive director for over 7 years for the Community Outreach Medical Center, board member for over 5 years for Doctors for Cannabis Regulation, and co-owner of Global Harmony LLC, president and founder of the Ogden Family Foundation, which is really something I want to hit on because of the work that you do with inner city kids and their future. But you're joining us today to talk a little bit about weed, and you're out of Nevada, right?
Yeah, Las Vegas. I was raised here and been here for most of my life, so I just in place.
Okay, Justin, you're gonna have to. Justin just got a new dog, and his name is Mochi Arigato Davis, and that follows Santorini Olivier Davis. Because he names them after the places he goes and countries he visits, because he can do that. Yeah, must be nice, right?
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Get your dog under control. So living in Vegas and growing up there, what was that like? Is it always like, I always think lights, drinking, gambling, all the sin and fun. Is it like that all the time?
Oh, that's like some of the misconceptions of growing up here. It's funny because everyone, when you tell them that you live here and things in the past, I think people now, it's become more of a family place to visit. Some people bring kids, things like that, more so now than maybe 20 years ago. But when you
I brought my children there.
My parents took me.
They were great at gambling. It was amazing. Better than
they're good to distract the dealers and stuff. So but no, we, back in the day, they used to think everyone lived and worked on the strip, like, oh, you guys must live in the casinos, and then you come down and then you're like, where do people live? And you're like, okay, we have everything everyone else has. We have suburban areas, we have churches, we got it all. Like,
I've never seen a church in Vegas.
Right. That's because you haven't been off the strip.
No, ma'am, you're right.
And so your Jesus has coins that you slide in and you do like this.
You know him.
Or looks like Elvis.
Or looks like you're praying to that slot machine God in there. So that's different. But
very different.
That one strip area, that it's just one street, in the whole city, in the whole state, so we got it all. And I think a lot of people don't really know that because they never been outside of the strip, but it's huge. I mean, we're one of the fastest growing cities now. It's grown so much since I was little. But when you live here, just like in Manhattan, it's kind of like, hey, how do you live in Manhattan or whatever? Like, it's just one area. There's a whole area. So, or Florida, like, oh, do you just Miami, you're just partying all day? No,
I don't brag about living in Florida ever. Yeah, I'm actually like ashamed sometimes. And yes, I always.
So you get kind of the same rep though, like, kind of thing. But no, it's a great place to grow up. It was a great place to live. There was a lot of opportunity here for business, which is why I stayed. I knew this early in, and it's just a community now. Now, when you live here though, you don't gamble. You don't go to casinos and things. You're not a tourist, so you're not out there.
We don't go to Disney. Yeah.
Right,
Like
you
it's
don't do
just
any of
not-
that, right? And if you did go to your mortgage would be on the table, like it, so we know better. And so it's really, it was great growing up here.
Yeah, I remember flying into Vegas for MJ Biz a couple years ago. There are suburbs all around that, like, it's just like suburgatory that surrounds the Sin City. So, and yes, we our company Kaija Labs has a location right off the strip, which I think is awfully funny that there's a testing laboratory for cannabis right off of the Vegas strip, but it does pretty well. And weed has been doing incredibly well in Nevada. So tell us a little bit about, well, actually, which one's your favorite? We'll talk about you're doing so much. You're board member, co-founder,
You
president,
have
founder.
you have a
executive director.
dispensary yourself, don't you?
I'm sorry.
You started and own a dispensary yourself, in fact.
Yeah, I was one of the first dispensary owners, dispensaries open when we first rolled out. We were part of that rollout, pioneering the movement out here. And so back in 2014, that's when
Okay.
I started. And so, now here it is almost 10 years later. And, so we're the pioneers of this, we really started
The
this whole
OG.
industry. And so, I a dispensary, a cultivation that we have open here. We've been operating since then, and we've kind of expanded into other licenses in Nevada as well that are not open, but we are looking to open some of those and expand out into other states as well. So it's been a great experience. It's just been it's been a lot of work.
It is a lot. That's a lot in that market specifically, with all the different licenses you have to hold, plus the county stuff. What's the name of your dispensary?
It's Top Notch THC, or Top Notch the Health Center.
Health Center. Okay, got it.
The Health Center, and we just played off of THC. So but Top Notch is we do amazing there. The community really supportive. We're off the strip. But we do very well, and we're really proud of what we've been able to accomplish with me and my two partners that have been in this originally since the beginning. A lot of these companies have sold to big corporations, sold out to just investors with a lot of money, and we're probably one of the few original owners that have started this from the ground up and are still hammering it out.
What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in the beginning? And then the follow-up question to that is, what have you seen change over time?
So I think, being super over-regulated, which you hear a lot, you think it's like kryptonite that we're selling out of there, or something from another planet, with all the regulations, right? Like, so it's, that part was challenging because no one was before us. And so even the government is learning on our backs.
Oh yeah.
So, that part was hard because as they're learning their processes and putting them in place at the same time as us trying to run and operate business, it was very difficult to be the first to pioneer this when no one had any experience in it. I'm talking about the people governing you.
Yeah.
So, that was a challenge. Also, just the amount of people that try to take advantage of you in this industry. At the beginning, it's like you were fighting off snakes from everywhere. They were coming out of the woodworks trying to take your, buy you out, take your company, do this, take advantage of social equity pieces, like, overcharging you rent 3 times. As soon as they hear you're a cannabis company, they charge you.
They think you're rolling in it.
Yeah, and it's just a misconception of all of it, to be honest. A lot of dispensaries couldn't make it. We get overtaxed, we're overregulated, everyone's charging us triple. So those were some of the biggest obstacles early on. And how we really overcame a lot of that was, I'm just grateful for the partners that I have, because we were very conservative. We were very careful on who we worked with. how we spent our money and letting the company really naturally grow into itself. So we didn't assume a lot of debt. You know, we were very, very mindful of that early on. And because of it, you know, we allowed us to be extremely successful as a small, you know, company competing against some of these people with hundreds of millions of dollars that just are throwing money at it and not never step foot in it. So, you know,
You're truly a success story if you think about it, for all the smaller mom and pop shops that are trying to take advantage of maybe a social equity program in New York City, for instance, or New York. That state has had a hard time, and people get very jaded by the process because these bigger MSOs can kind of bulldog them around, and they do have printable money. You know, they can just get a lease for that 3 times amount. And so you were able to survive through all of that R&D work on your company during the implementation. That's really amazing. And that's not an easy market either. You should take a lot of pride in that.
No, and like I said, you know, when people hear about the industry or think they know about, all they think is you're just rolling around in dough
All the time.
It's you know, it's totally the opposite. We pay way more money out for everything. We can't write anything off, you know, things like that. And it doesn't allow you to succeed naturally. You really have to fight through this, like you said, and people don't realize what we had to go through as pioneers. Even it's easier now, even because there's a lot more things that have changed. Regulations have loosened up a little, like here or there. You know, you have people now that they're putting things in place to protect people from being gouged from like lease landlords, and you know, all this stuff wasn't there at first. And so to get through that and still, you know, overcome all those obstacles and be successful and grow and things, it does speak volumes to, you know, what we were able to do as a small, like you said, small mom and pop, in a sense, competing against big giants. And we're really proud of that.
That's good. Your company sounds like they made sound business decisions and good quality and ethical, like financial decisions, and not trying to get too big too fast. I think you guys are definitely a unique story, but hopefully, you know, somebody can follow your lead on that business model and be successful. Tell us. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to find why didn't you sell your company? You know, if so many places did, what kept you in the game?
Well, a lot of them sold because they couldn't make it. We could make it. We made it, and we're doing well. We just, like you said, I feel like we had a really good strategy going in, and good partnerships. You know, we had our troubles, you know, at times we had obstacles, you know, our landlord, we had to buy our building, you know, he was trying to do the same thing. So all these things, you know, that you don't account for, or like, you know, your legal fees are, you know, off the Richter scale. Like, it's ridiculous. You don't even know to budget that much for it. Like, it's ridiculous. So, you know, we just did what we had to make sure we made the best decisions, but that was it. I mean, some people sold too because they got offers that they thought, you know, maybe they were doing fine and they got an offer that they really wanted to just go with. I feel like we really knew our worth. We were passionate about the industry. We weren't in it for a money grab. We were in it to help people. And because of it, we never desperate to take money thrown at us. All money's not good money. And we knew that going in. And you know, hey, I can't say we will never not sell, because there's
Everything's for sale.
Yeah, if someone come with a ridiculous offer one day, and you know, hey, so be it. We might entertain that. But we're not actively looking to do that. We're really out here trying to grow, expand, and you know, help the community at the same time. So, you know, we'll see what the future holds. But you know, regardless, we do have 5 other licenses with other partners, and you know, we're still going to be in the industry no matter what happens to our current situation. And we don't plan on getting out anytime soon.
Don't you kind of like being like the first? You know, like for that market, being part of the, I guess, implementation, part of the regulation and legislation and all of the changes. And since you survived, And some of the other people, maybe they sold because it's like, oh, is it worth the headache to keep all this up? And they chose not to, but you chose to. So it's like, you kind of have to stay there. If you go other places and you spread out and you get bigger, you're going to have a home base in Nevada, because like, that's where you were like the first. He said OG, but OG means ocean grown, not original gangster, but he knows better, but we'll let him have a pass on this one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Doctors for Cannabis Regulation and what you do with that group and how that group has affected change and in the cannabis space legislatively.
Sure. Well, the Doctors for Cannabis Regulation is an organization, nonprofit organization that was started many years ago with a group of physicians that and providers that are really focused on helping with policies, legislation, safety, education, and things like that for the community and for the industry. Because if you're going to roll it out, who better to tell you what this does for people and how it's important than a group of physicians. And so they also had an initiative at the time that when I joined to really tackle the NFL policies and some of the sports policies on, testing athletes and things like that, and are letting this be an alternative to pain management. For pain management issues. So that I came on board to kind of help with that initiative initially. And then I became, the secretary of the board, as well as over the development committee, being that I've had nonprofit experience for a very long time. And the business aspect of things, it really helped us, to try to help this organization grow in the development stages of programming and, really outreach and things like that. And, but it's a great organization. They really focus on change. Like I said, legislation, we testify, during Senate hearings and things like that. So there's a lot of policies, things that we really are focused on. But, I'm not a physician myself, but I run a medical center. I've been involved in the health and wellness space, and once again, nonprofit space. And it was just a real big honor for me to be included into this group of people that really at the time put their licenses on the line, because it was frowned upon. It's frowned upon, and especially in the medical professional space, because they didn't want to risk their licenses. They were afraid. There's still a lot of unknowns. There's not a lot of education happening. There's none happening from the state. So it falls on the industry people to try to educate them, and they pretty much stayed away from it for a long time, even trying to get medical cards, things like that. There was a lot of, when I first started this, there was a lot of medical professionals that didn't want to have anything to do with even getting people registered for marijuana cards. So this group of people, they put themselves out there, they took the chances, they put their licenses on the line, they really to fight for this movement. And that I respect that so much, because these are people that are really accredited, like they really have they've done a lot in the industry themselves. They're very successful, and they had a lot to lose.
Justin was one of them. Just on the other coast, out here. Justin is a recommended physician for our program, but Justin, do you feel the same way about some of your doctor colleagues not being super into it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a small group of doctors out there that
it's like the League of Extraordinary Physicians or something like that,
Justice
right? Oh, it's the Justice League.
We're all very proactive. A lot of us have been in it since the beginning or close to the beginning. We're political, and but it's kind of, it's 100% what you said. We're not well respected among the general medical community, and certainly not the Board of Medicine by Florida. And it's a dangerous position to be in often. And our licenses do feel like they're constantly being looked at and scrutinized. And in fact, they are. It's not, we don't feel like it.
It's not fake fear there. This is actual. Justin's been through his own nightmares with the board, and they treat you guys like a outcast group of doctors, like the
I think what
unfavorables.
Kema, what you said though that resonates, or what stands out, I should say, is that your group of the doctors that you've worked with and that you do work with, that people listen to them as experts, and we think of ourselves as experts here to some extent. We've been involved in the program for so long, and we see patients, etc. But what's frustrating for us, I think, is that the medical community and the regulators, the people that are making the rules here, really never ask us our opinions. I mean, we're the ones that probably know the most in the state about the program, both from a cannabis standpoint, medicinally speaking, but also just what patients go through and how the regulations actually play out in real life. We're never asked, if this is a good regulation, if it's a good idea, what are our suggestions? And that's really what gets frustrating. So I love that people are listening to you guys and you're actually making policy.
Yeah, at least having a voice, like you said, that's the biggest thing. And that always surprised me too. I'm like, why aren't more people listening to medical professionals who looking at the science of this, or looking at, how it affects their patients, getting the testimonials, like really one-on-one with these people and their needs. I personally think you should be listening to that person even more so than me in the industry. I'm not dealing with the human body like you are. And the science behind it and the research and what this does medically. So it always surprised me. And hopefully as we keep moving forward nationally on this, that, it's taken more seriously, and there's more medical professionals in different areas that are starting to really get on board. And I see more and more now than ever before. So that's good. I think people are less afraid of what's going to happen to them if they start speaking out.
And we've definitely seen a big change in the sports world. The Olympic Committee allows for cannabis to a certain extent. The NFL has made changes. I don't know who else, but I'm sure that
Do you remember like our second or third show, Justin? I know this is gonna throwback and totally off topic for a second, but do you remember how we were talking about the Olympics screening for cannabis, and how, at the time there was that runner that was being exploited for her cannabis use, and so we pulled all that data, and there was a bunch of track and field players that were being excluded from participation because they hit on cannabis, and we thought that there might be trends there with that data because of the track and field retention and body fat and all that. You remember? It's like 2 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just surprised because I feel like it came full circle. Justin can't always tell us who he works with, but I know for a fact he works with some famous people that may or may not benefit from the deregulation, or I guess not having cannabis on the screening kit for their profession in a football capacity. That's all I can say.
One of the things that we've started seeing is that a lot of artists, but also a lot of sports players have been sort of capitalizing on starting their own brands in cannabis, which is, it's nice to see.
It makes them feel more comfortable. Also, if they are not being persecuted for the use of, then they can also capitalize because they use. I mean, Marshawn Lynch has a line, Dodie Blunt's. It's very successful. He's my favorite player of all time. Just saying. So let's talk about what you do with, I mean, like I said, you're a little bit everywhere. Like you seem like someone that is constantly going and participating or volunteering to contribute, which is really admirable. You're the executive director of the Community Outreach Med Center, which is what we were just talking about, where that experience has kind of afforded you the ability to work very closely with these cannabis doctors. But what is Global Harmony LLC?
Well, that's the corporation that my dispensary and my cultivation is under.
Okay, so that's the top notch. There. And then you're also the Ogden Family Foundation president and founder.
Yeah, no longer president, but I did. I was a founder. Still active volunteering there and still advising on a regular basis. But the clinic is a community outreach medical center is a nonprofit clinic.
Mhm.
And we help patients who are underinsured or no insurance at all, but we also see, general medicine, like regular patients, but we have programs for people who need help with health services and may not be able to financially afford it. So we deal a lot with HIV population. We get grants to help them with their care. We do a maternal program to help expecting mothers who don't have insurance and things like that. So, but being that we deal with a high amount of patients that are living with HIV, cannabis is the obvious choice for holistic care, for an option for those type of patients. We don't obviously prescribe it here. We don't do anything like that, but this clinic, we do a lot of things to support this nonprofit in our top-notch in our for-profits because of all the different types of ways that this comes full circle for those type of patients. And so we have a holistically positive program where we help people get their medical marijuana cards. We do a whole education piece on ways to consume and why and how it helps and things like that. And we focus a lot on helping veterans, seniors, people with high-risk diseases and things like that. And so we do provide things of that nature. And so I do a lot of that with the Ogden Family Foundation and the clinic. I've kind of merged those two nonprofits together. Yeah. And now we focus a lot more on health and wellness of the community and families that way. So our programming in the foundation has shifted because of COVID. When COVID hit, we were doing a lot of things at the schools, helping kids with education. But once COVID hit, we could no longer go into the schools. Yeah. And funding changed. A lot of people started changing their initiatives when it came to what they're funding and how they're supporting. Now everything is COVID related, even on a financial standpoint, or mental health. There's a lot of things that happened that COVID
did shift, didn't it?
Oh, it shifted.
Yeah.
And
COVID ruined everything.
It did. It was horrible. It just screwed everything up. But now there's a new pandemic. It was like mental health, yep. Everyone, it threw a lot of people into this mental health space and kids included and things. So we really shifted our focus, and I merged more of the nonprofits together to focus on the medical piece of helping the community. And that's really what we've been doing.
That's a good pivot though. If you think about it, you have the ability to pivot your 501(c)(3)s together and keep going when that funding disappears.
Right. And we're still in our, in our lane because we were always health and wellness,
So what on a personal level has drawn you so much to being a community social equity activist?
Nobody loves and cares this much without having some sort of inspiration and or some sort of spark that happened. What was it for you?
Well, I grew up having, my grandparents were very heavy in the community on both sides. My grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side, they owned a church and they were pastors in the community, and I have uncles and aunts that same thing, very heavy into the community in that way. My grandmother was a saint in herself. Always, she would go to prisons and read the scripture to, some of the inmates. She would do a lot of things go pray at the hospital.
Stuff they tell you to do in the Bible. She's actually.
Oh, she did it. Wow. My grandmother, Mary, who was, really the one person that gave me the spark to go, man, she's the most caring, loving person, giving person I ever met in my life or known. And, so I seen it. But then, I also grew up needing help. My mom, at times we had hard times, and people sometimes need a little help, and then when it came to this movement with the cannabis piece, I think the frustrating part for me was not having that support myself. I didn't have anyone to help me get through this, or to understand it, or to get in. And I seen the disparities in social equity and diversity and things like in the inclusion. You know, you have I have people in my own family that might have went to jail for having a joint in their pocket. They can never work in the industry. So it just, you know, it really hit home in different areas. And to be honest, it's the right thing, man. You need to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. Sometimes you got to be the voice. I have one, and I'm in a position where I can share information and knowledge, and also fight for people who can't fight for themselves. And I think I'm gonna, you know, I'll always do that, no matter how successful I get or what I have. Because some people will look at my situation, go, oh, well, what are you doing this for? What's the big deal? Like, you could just be, you know, this, that, and the other. I mean, this medical center, you know, this is a big ordeal. You know, this is something I have to really spend a lot of time on, and it's nonprofit. I don't make money on this like a business. There's no way. It's really about giving back, and I dedicate a lot of time to that. So people are like, man, what the hell? But it's so fulfilling. I do a lot, not just in, you know, we do a lot to help people. When you see the change in people and you see the impact, it just does something. I mean, I had a gym for 8 years before I even got into this industry. When people would come in, even that, they'd go, man, joining this gym changed my life. Like, I've lost 100 pounds, no longer on medication. Like that testimonial, being a part of that, it really does something for you as a human being. You're like, man, this is amazing. I had something to do with that. And it's almost like an addiction itself. You want to continue to feel like that, because you are helping other people. And when you know, it's a success story. Like, you know, when you open up a business and you have a vision and you can see it all the way through, and how that feels, it kind of is the same when it comes to people. When you invest in them and you're helping them, and you're creating jobs at the same time, and you're still feeding families that are working for them. So if you do it right, you know, it'd be a win-win. In a sense, you're helping the community, but you're also helping people have jobs and careers and things too. So
I think it's great what you're doing, because there's not just the entirety, but I like how you're spending specific time helping out those who suffer with AIDS and HIV. Because just like Justin was saying, nobody asks the doctors, you know, how many patients do you have? What are their ailments? What are they benefiting from? So it's just, if you are sick enough to be on this list, you get to participate in the medical program. But they never then say, hey, if you are suffering with AIDS and HIV, this is what's been working for the patients already in the program. It just feels like sometimes, you know, everybody kind of focuses on how the benefits of cannabis can help with cancer or with glaucoma or this or that or this. And they kind of forget about the people that are having some of these other ailments that, you know, people already ostracize and kind of exclude them because it's scary and all this, whatever they feel. But like, we're running towards those and opening your arms and your heart to that, I think is incredible. I feel like there should be more people that kind of give that group of people a little more attention, you know.
No, I agree. And I think what people don't realize as a business owner, if people out there in the community are doing well, then you'll do well, you know. And I don't think enough people think about that. They just think about themselves and like their own success. But if you help the next man, then he can go spend some money somewhere. And then guess what? The economy's doing better. Your business will start picking up and whatnot. It really should come full circle if you're doing it with the right intention. You're really out there.
That's hard in cannabis, because everyone's like, look how successful I am, instead of look how successful we are. You know, they're like,
and I couldn't be successful if these people didn't have an opportunity to come in here and participate in this, you know. And so we owe it to the community to give back to them, I feel, because this wouldn't even be, you know, I couldn't just sell cannabis if it didn't help people, you know. So that's a big deal.
Doesn't it kind of feel like a double-edged sword sometimes, that the thing that has made you so successful has also been the thing that has caused family members to maybe have to spend time behind bars, be incarcerated. I mean, I have similar stories in my family too, and it kind of makes me feel guilty sometimes operating a company that's doing well in the industry that kind of in another state maybe would have hurt one of my family members, and they had to, pay a price for it. So and then they can't even participate.
Yeah, and I don't feel guilty at all because I do my part of trying to make change.
Yeah.
And you need people to come in, get in these industries, and then push that door open for people who were like that, that had those issues, because it's the right thing to do. And, I feel like, no, if anything, you get a seat at that damn table. Make them open those doors and slide through that window, whatever you have to do, because the only way for me to feel like I'm getting justice for people I know, my family members, or people out there, is to make that change or be a voice at least. And if it's nothing else but talking about it, like even coming on here, a lot of this is just to educate people on the industry, what it could do for them, what ways they should look at it, and really just try to inspire people to help in whatever way they can, or whatever their passion is. They might just smoke and that's it. They just want to go smoke and they care about nothing else. But,
I know a few like that.
Yeah, and that's okay, but know that you still, those people should still know, like, hey, if you even just to go smoke,
just be grateful.
You need people like us fighting to make sure this state gets federally legalized, things get in place properly, that you're safe when you consume. So they should also have some, respect that, even if they don't care about helping the next man, because I'm actually helping you, even though you don't know it, because it's legal now, because of people like us.
You're speaking like volumes here, because what you're saying is actually, I mean, it's exactly what's happening in all these different markets. Florida specifically is exactly what's happening. It's like they finally got some, and then they're just going to consume. And there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
So Kema, you've done a lot in your time here, but let's say we flash forward, 10 years from now, what would you like to say, look what I'm doing now, or look what I've accomplished?
I think I'd like to see more policy changes, from the banking all the way to programs that are designed to help people sustain and succeed in here. If you're in a social equity program, or people who are, who have been, part of this system that has incarcerated them in the past for doing the same thing as I'm doing right now, and they never have an opportunity to get into the industry, I think I'd like to see, obviously, that not be an issue again. In 10 years, we shouldn't even be having this conversation. But also, it's okay to say, oh yeah, you can participate in the industry, but we're not going to do anything to support your success. And what I mean by that is, people who are disenfranchised that way might not have the money to do this. It takes a lot of money to do this. And you're almost now you're having this whole separation of classes that are allowed to do this. And that is another way to discriminate. It's another way to keep people out. And you could go, hey, you minorities and women, apply all day. But if you don't have $1 trillion, it's not going to matter. How are you going to allow people to be a part of this? How are you going to educate the community? There's, like you said, there's so much to do. Educating consumers, even educating doctors, like really focusing on the medical space of this still, and not getting away from it because of that recreation is now here. And I think there's so much to do in the next 10 years. I would like to see more of those changes, more education. People are being discriminated against because of the fact that they don't have funding or whatnot. Having more programs in place to support those people. And then once they get in, education, the compliance on this industry, trying to understand that, and learn how to be compliant in this industry. That's a class, that's a training session in itself. Like, how do you do that? And we had to just learn, like I said, on the job. You had to learn as you go. And now, you know, you can have programs designed to teach people how to be successful in here and not lose a bunch of money trying to get into an industry they know nothing about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a big difference between running a cannabis company and then also just getting in trouble for having cannabis, and protecting people, dropping the barriers to entry, but protecting them from being exploited. That's the part, because like you said earlier, the social equity programs do hit on a few disenfranchised groups and how they get to now participate. Thank you so much for that honor. But yes, they could be exploited by groups of people that are pretty much using them as tokens, and then they're, you know, carrying the license on in. And are they getting the equity for the company? Are they getting ownership like they should? But all of that, it seems like every state seems to have their issues. Florida's sometimes an embarrassment. I don't always like talking about all the stuff we did wrong. I mean, the fact that we even have a license called the Black Farmers License is embarrassing in itself, because we forgot and we messed up about it in the initial licensure. But I do like how you do mention, you know, sharing the information. A lot of growers in this industry don't want to talk to one another or collaborate. It's like, what we do is our IP, and don't ask us what we do, and we're not going to share. But as far as compliance, that's uniform for the market that you're in. That's something everyone's going to have to know. If there was a group that taught them that, that would be incredibly invaluable in every market.
Yeah, and that's just one thing, you know, there's so many things you have to know and learn and be provided with in order to be successful. You know, people don't have a clue. And you think because you maybe operated another business before that you can come and do this, and it's nothing like any other business. You know, and that's the first thing I tell people when they're, oh, I used to run a coffee shop or something. You're like, I'm sorry to tell you, but that means
I
nothing.
was CEO of a giant, you know, hedge fund or bank.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
nothing.
Do you know how to grow weed?
Yeah, I mean, you know, there might be some qualities that you have to that help you be successful in this, like, you know, from a leadership standpoint, or, you know, whatever, you know, maybe you can budget well and do this, that, and the other. Who knows what your business, you know, talents are, but it doesn't translate to, I can just run and go and open up this and be successful at all.
I used to see that over and over again in Silicon Valley in the medical side, where you had these, you know, people that were very successful entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley, and they decided they wanted to start, you know, some healthcare company, and they always had so much hubris and wanted so little advice. And there's still very few companies that have been successful in, you know, starting these multi-market health.
But isn't that always been the case? Like, if I was the CEO of like a big, like JP Morgan, okay, I was the HBIC of a big financial company, and I wanted to, okay, I'm leaving that life and I'm going to go open an ice cream shop. Just because I did that has no like value to my ice cream creamery operation that I'm about to start. Doesn't mean I know how to make ice cream really, really well just because I worked and did successful. If you're a one-trick pony, that's what trick you do really, really well. But in cannabis, you have to be everything. You have to be really good at retail, cultivation, business, budgeting, banking, people, giving a shit.
Yeah, and these systems and these are all new systems.
Oh yeah.
You got to use a matrix system, a tracking system, you know, all these things, and labs and testing, you know, the compliance, like I said, understanding all of that. I mean, the list goes on. And, you know, like you, Justin, said, you know, people automatically assume I did, you know, I had a great website company and I'm just going to go do this. No, it doesn't. That's not how that works. And you're almost starting fresh, you know, and like I said, hopefully you have some qualities that allow you to be a good business owner, at least, but you don't know what you're doing yet until you get in there and, you know, start messing around. And so I think, but next 10 years though, it'll be different because there's going to be so many people that are going to be more seasoned. They know the industry a lot better. So I think getting into it and learning and knowing what to do is not going to be as difficult as everyone evolves.
So that kind of brings me back to like the whole, you're probably always going to be represented in some capacity in Nevada because you had to go through the shit. You had to go from the very beginning with the regulators because they weren't like cannabis professionals either. They weren't like experts in cannabis regulation. They were probably doing something else for the Department of Health, and then they were put into a new assignment. So they're learning and R&Ding on you guys while you're learning from them and everybody's. So it's like almost after you go through all of it, they would have to pull my ass out of Florida at this point and other markets that we started at the very beginning, because I'm going to be in the cannabis space here because we had to start from the very beginning before it was even legal. And just like you had to start at the very beginning when people were selling out and, you're trying to figure things out. So it's almost like you take ownership over your market. And
yeah, no, definitely. I think there's some definite respect for people who had to do that early in, as opposed to people coming on board right now. And great to those people too, but it would always kill me when we would have people, you go to a conference or something and you got people with booths that they're saying they're advisors or consultants, and they've never gotten a license themselves. They never operated one. They've never had any success in this industry other than doing some research and know how to put a consulting book together. And there's a lot of those.
There's almost as funny as getting the degree in cannabis. That one's hilarious to me.
Yeah, and thinking you can go in and consult people just off of that alone is not going to work out well for, you might get some basic information, but that's not going to translate to a successful business either. So, it definitely has been a road, to travel, but I will say, no one could ever take that from me. And and then you got people who also are waiting to see if you're going to go to jail before they jumped in. They're like, I'm not going to get in this industry. I'm going to wait to see if you get arrested and everything seized from you. And then now they're like, hey, can you put me on? And you're like, hey, you didn't want to take the risk back then. Like we took the risks, we didn't know if they were going to seize our accounts and accounts have been seized.
Yeah, I was about to say they at the beginning, that was 2016, 2017 for us. We were still having issues with banks. And
we
so we're
still
like
have issues with banks right now.
Oh yeah, still, but we got lucky in Florida. In Nevada, that lab, they do too.
Yeah.
You kind of want them to have to pay their dues a little bit. I mean, me personally, maybe it's just because I'm petty sometimes, that when I see other people that are like, oh, now you want to be in this industry where you were kind of dogging it before. All right, well, gotta start at the bottom. Now you're
like the story of the little red hen.
Tell us the story of the red hen, Justin.
The little red hen. You don't know that?
No. My mom read Glamour to me.
She does all these things to, she goes and she sows the weed and grinds it herself, and all the while I think it's like a cat and some other animal are watching, and she keeps inviting them if they want to join in, and they laugh and they do their own thing and they play and they nap, and finally the culmination is that she has this amazing bread or a cake that she brings out, right? That's the culmination of all this work she's done. And then she says, oh, do you want to, would you like a piece of this? And of course they're first in line and they can't wait.
Oh, I get it. See, it started off a little like red lighty, a little like maybe this is a grown-up book. And then now I understand. So they didn't want to contribute to making the cake, but they wanted to eat the cake.
Yes. So
I get the hen story. It's great.
Yeah. So you could have two possible. You could have the like the regular kind of version where she's like, I don't think so, like no, or you could have like the biblical version where she's like, I forgive you. Here's your here you have some.
I like the cannabis version better. Like you have to start, you have to pay your dues. You have to like go through the
Yeah,
shit,
she
and
didn't
you
give them any cake.
appreciate what you get, and then you can give back to your community and everyone wins. Like you're definitely someone that people can look up to. I think like you're my hero. That's
Aw.
for sure. Because yeah, you're doing everything that people should be doing in our industry. You're giving back, you're contributing to change. You are not forgetting about those who have been disenfranchised by the industry that we capitalize on every day. And you're also, just giving a damn. You're giving a lot of damn.
You're, as my people say, you're well versed in tikkun olam, one
Okay.
mitzvah at a time.
He's a Jewish, and and so if you can't tell, and he loves
How
to
much you wish.
talk
How
about
much
it.
you wish.
Kunalam is heal the world. But I like it when you speak Yiddish better than
Okay,
cannabis brands.
all right, Babala.
Yeah. Like what did you say the last time? I was talking about Manischewitz last time. See, I'm like an honorary Jew. I'm getting there.
That's a good place to be, though.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great what you're doing. And if there's any way that we, Justin and myself, or the Marijuana Mind, or any of our listeners can contribute or help out, go ahead and plug your socials or whatever. Is there any place if they wanted to follow you and stay up to date with everything that you do, where can they find you?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, if you go to, I try to house everything in one place because people ask me for this. I created a website, KemaOgden.com, and that was to just house all my articles.
Yeah.
Some, nonprofits that I'm associated with. But if they want to go and help any of the nonprofits or join any of the nonprofits, like dfcr.org for Doctors for Cannabis Regulations, or they can go to communityoutreachmedicalcenter.org as well to donate to the clinic and let us continue to do work there too.
And that's Kema with an E, right?
Well, yeah.
K-E-M-A.
We're going to go
KEMA,
ahead and link it. We'll link it to the website or to the podcast episode, which will also be linked to our YouTube, Instagram, all of the everything. So we will spell it right for them. Our listeners don't need to be good at spelling. They're good at
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and link up that website in the description. And it has been an honor speaking with you today. We're definitely going to check in because I have a feeling you're not done.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
I got to keep up. I feel like I should give back. It makes me want to give more.
Thank you guys for having me. It was fun, being on today. And I thank you guys for spreading the word and, just getting it out there for people to have, more education about this and what it's really like.
You're an inspiration.
What's that?
You're an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
She's like the coolest guest we've had on. Like, doesn't it make you feel inadequate?
Except for your boyfriend, though. No, disclose.
No.
That guy.
No, not that.
Well, anyway.
I'm glad that the listeners weren't there for the first part of the show.
Yeah. Sorry, listeners.
Am I blushing?
Yeah.
This is Cynthia Brewer signing off for the Marijuana Mind. We will talk to you next week. And my amazing co-host, go ahead, J-Dog, J-Nasty.
You said it all. Thank you.
No.
Thank you, being green as always.
Keeping it lean, keeping it green, keeping my spleen.
Oh, I want to give a shout out to Cynthia Brewer, my co-host, for making an amazing little video on TikTok for the show.
It's everywhere now. If you haven't seen it, it is somewhat of a visual recap of our first, well, it's not all 100 guests.
You did a good job. And it almost has as much views as my daughter's one where there's a little bunny rabbit hopping around singing happy, happy, happy.
All I'm saying is your daughter ain't got shit on my video. I put music to it. I put all of our guest companies, like it's on. Her and I for the most like.
She's 3. I don't know how old she is. I'm just saying.
No, she's young. She's really super young. I shouldn't be in competition with this young lady, but
no, it's hard to beat bunny rabbits, kittens, and
adorable.
Puppies, right?
If I can beat out a bunny rabbit with his cute daughter, like that is hashtag.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah. So we'll see if we get there. But yes, I made that video on TikTok. I spent a lot of time on it. And it's a recap of our first almost 100 guests that we've had. Getting close to 100.
Wow.
We don't even look a day over 99. I can't wait to find out who we have for our 100th guest.
Wow. Well, I was there. I was right there.
Oh, you're part of the top 10. You're part of the top 10. So this will be great. Thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.